Our senior political analyst. Thank you both for being here. So, Mark, to you, where does the president stand right now in terms of the importance of being a voice for the future of the Democratic Party?
Well, there's certainly a void right now because we haven't seen anyone really step into that role at this point. And, we do see this at a time when political parties are out of the White House. And certainly now that the congressional majorities are minorities right now for Democrats as well. In many ways, I think that Barack Obama is going to play a very big role at this point. We haven't really seen Elizabeth Warren step up to the point where we thought she would. I know she has a book out and she's doing a tour, but she's also very careful in what she says. Bernie Sanders, I'm surprised, has actually kept the fire lit. In many ways, has kept the energy in the Democratic Party.
Of course, problematic that Bernie Sanders refuses to say he's a Democrat.
Right, of course.
Bernie Sanders says
there is that.
It's a minor detail.
The most popular Democrat, not a Democrat, Professor Sabato. And when you get to President Obama, Alyssa Mastromonaco, who was a close advisor to President Obama, says, quote, "I think Barack Obama is probably still the leader of the Democratic Party." How much of a problem is that for the Democratic Party?
Well, the problem is not that Obama is the leader. I think if Democrats had their druthers, President Obama would be out there every day leading the charge against the Trump administration. The problem for Democrats is that that's not what former President Obama wants to do. He wants to have the same kind of life that former presidents before him have had. Yeah. The memoirs, building the library, doing speaking gigs around the world, and all the rest of it. I'm sure he will step up at various times, but Obama knows better than anybody else just how mean and tough Donald Trump can be. I don't think he wants to get in those sights this early. It's too soon.
What does it say, Mark Preston, that the most popular active politician right now across the board is Bernie Sanders? 57% say that, according to the Hills polling. What does that tell someone who does not identify with a party?
Well, he doesn't identify with the party, but in some ways he's more Democrat than some Democrats are. He certainly plays to a certain segment of the party, a very powerful segment of the party, which is the liberal spectrum of the party. And I think that Bernie Sanders could have just packed his lunch and walked away after losing the nomination, but decided to move on. In many ways has been a pretty loyal Democrat, even though, as John says, and Poppy, you say, he doesn't identify himself with the Democratic Party per se. Look, it is interesting that you see somebody in his 70s right now being really the most popular, and in some ways the leader of the Democratic
Party. Someone who's been in politics for a long, long time.
Right.
70's the new 35. Or 40, or one of those things.
So I'm 12.
Professor M.J. Lee's reporting on what former President Obama is going to talk about and not going to talk about today, including this line, this sort of disclaimer that I do want to read. President Obama does plan on being forthcoming if asked about where he stands on specific policy matters, including areas where he and Trump clearly disagree. He may mix it up today. Do you rule out the possibility that he may stake out some ground and say, hey, I don't like these things the current president is doing?
No, I'd be surprised if he did do that, given the opportunity. But there's a big difference between giving a speech attacking your successor and responding to questions about your policies and your legacy. And again, it's kind of a one-shot deal. What was most interesting to me in M.J. Lee's report there was that President Obama and President Trump have not spoken since Inauguration Day. On the one hand, that's not very surprising, given the tweets that President Trump has sent out about President Obama. On the other hand, it would have been interesting had they had some exchange about some of these key problems and issues that, after all, are carryovers from the Obama administration. So it's just a matter of time, I think, before Obama is more forthright about what Trump is doing.
I wondered, though, Mark Preston, will we see the former President Obama make an appeal to saving some of the key parts of Obamacare, just as he did in that meeting they had in the White House? It lasted an hour and a half, and President Trump came out and said during the transition those were key things that stood with him. Will we hear an appeal from the former President Obama on that today?
I don't think we'll see that today, because I don't think that this is necessarily the forum for that. And I don't think he's going to say Donald Trump's name or call him out by name, as Larry noted, because I do think that's right. But I do think, and he said this when he was leaving office, I'm going to stand up for those who I think need to be represented. And look, at Barack Obama is a very young man right now. He's got a lot of years ahead of him. And right now, in some ways, the Democratic Party kind of needs Barack Obama.
Mark Preston, Larry Sabato, great to have you guys with us. Appreciate it, gentlemen. All right, 5'9", but a giant in so many ways.